Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here, we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm Chad Gill, and today we have on Don Rubino. Don is based out of Vancouver. I think that's in that country up north. I think it's a country. I don't know, but Canada. So, so why do people pick on the nicest country on the northern hemisphere?
Because we don't complain.
Because it is right. People just take it. Anyway, so he has built and sold 2 large companies. He's a business coach. He's the owner of ProfitToolBelt. He has his own podcast, which we will clearly link to, called ProfitToolBelt Podcast. He does business coaching for a cabinet maker profit system. He's married with 2 children and a goldfish.
A goldfish
lasts as long, so hopefully that one's still in play.
Captain Kersplush has gone on. He's moved on to wetter pastures, as they say.
The wetter, that's right.
Yeah, but we still have the bearded dragon. His name is Blueberry. That's literally a dinosaur. He's going to last for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's like buying a parrot. I don't know that I would ever have that kind of commitment. Like you will it to somebody. I'm buying a pet that outlives me. No way. That's why I like dogs. I want to get a new one every 12 years.
Oh, gee. Oh, that's a painful memory. Okay.
So maybe now you know more than you want to know about me, but tell us about you, Don. How did you come to be doing this?
I love working with construction business owners, and I've been a business coach for a long time, but I realize that the kind of people that I like dealing with are people who are straight shooters. And so when I looked back at my history, it was always with people in construction or trades. And I have background in trades. I did some light construction myself as a younger man. When I had, I was taller when I was younger. I had darker hair, and I had 2 eyebrows back then. Now,
people do think you're kidding, but you do get shorter as you get older.
The weight of the world. My first, one of my first companies was a Christmas light installation company. I was stapling Christmas lights on houses here in the Pacific Northwest, which is cedar shake roofs in the rain on an aluminum. What could go wrong? Electricity and staple guns and a high school kid. But I like trades. I like doing things where I get paid, and I like finding problems that I can solve. And you know what? People didn't want to put up their own Christmas lights. People didn't want to paint their houses. People didn't want to fix their deck. And so I ended up just moving into the trades like a lot of us do. And then I moved out of the trades and I went into corporate. And then that led to a whole series of other things. But here I am again.
With the trades. See, you end up back. They're good people. They're people that understand the real
straight
world.
Shooters. Yeah, straight shooters. I appreciate it when somebody says, Dom, I think you're full of it. Yep. And then I also appreciate when I say to them, I think you're full of it. And they don't get offended. They're like, well, maybe. Yeah, I am. Kind of.
Maybe not full, but definitely 3/4.
Yeah. But again, if you talk like that to somebody who's in what we call a white collar profession, somebody that runs a law firm or let's say a dentist or something, they just have a different attitude about business. They want to meet, want to have subcommittees. You talk to a guy in a construction business, he's used to signing his name on something, says, I'm going to finish that project. And if there's a punch list, they go back and fix it. Things get done. I like that.
Yeah. Handshake and a signature. Signature's for you. Handshake was for me. We're ready to go.
I like that. Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, let's keep moving. So what do you, when you're meeting with these contractors and tradesmen and stuff like that, obviously that's what we target with our podcast and a lot of the tools that we utilize. Do you see a theme, like a common theme of things where you're like, hey, inevitably I meet one and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring you. Like, I know that he's getting ready to tell me one of these 3 problems or one of these challenges. Is there any kind of like repetitiveness to that where you're just like, oh my gosh?
So I have the benefit of having gone through a bunch of cycles because I've been doing this since 2000. So at the time of this recording, that's 22 years.
Yeah.
So I've seen a bunch of cycles, and what happens is the questions change from the business owner. So the themes kind of change. And what I found over this time is people generally come to me and they may not know this, but they have questions about time or time management, questions about their people, which is hot right now. That's on the upswing, right? How do I find them? How do I keep them? How do I motivate them, etc.? So we got time, we got people. Money is always a hot topic. People want to talk about growing or exiting the business. They want to talk about simple systems, or they want to talk about, finding the right client and getting them. All of those things happen. But you know what really lies behind that is business owners go into business without having been trained. They're just really good in their trade. And they're really, really good at taking something heavy and lifting it over their head.
Yeah.
That's it. They're just good at working hard.
And you see a lot of people get into really bad positions. We started Field Recon for that very reason. You see them get in a bad because they're an excellent, let's take a mason. You're an excellent bricklayer. You came in, you learned how to mix mortar, you learned how to lay brick, you got really, really good at it. People said, man, you're fantastic. And the people follow you because you're good. So will you run my crew? Sure. Then you're like running a crew and you're like, if I'm going to do all of this, I should run my own crew. And so now you're in business. And when people ask you, they say, what do you do for a living? You're like, I'm a brick mason. And you're not.
No.
And they don't realize that you're no longer a brick mason. And like you said, you're suddenly thrown into a whole nother world. And you're trying to continue to be a brick mason. You're not being a business guy.
Yeah, you nailed it. So that's one of the things I say on my show as well. And when I'm talking to business owners, that's maybe a consistent theme, Chad, that you and I are both seeing is at some point you have to stop being a construction guy with a crew and start being a business owner who just happens to run a masonry company. Yeah, that's a difference in mindset. And that's what I think you and I work people towards, right?
Yeah, that mindset. So that's a word that when you're trying to explain it, how do you explain mindset? Like to me, I'm like, okay, I understand what you mean, but if someone's like, tell me what you mean by mindset.
Can I make a slightly off-color joke? There's no swearing, but I think the visual. I think the visual.
You didn't.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen listening, and obviously there's women in construction, but this is aimed at gentlemen. Gentlemen, you have a 4-inch problem.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. So when we talk about mindset, and by the way, you and I both suffer from this as well. It's how we deal with it that makes the difference. But the 4-inch problem is the space between my ears. So as a business owner, and this is that transition we're talking about, and we'll use masonry again. Am I a masonry expert who has a construction company, or am I a businessman who happens to have a masonry company? That's a mindset change. And when I go through that change, I have to understand as the owner of a company, I get paid from the neck up. I get paid to think, I get paid to plan, and I get paid to make things happen. We call that think, plan, do, right? Just real simple. So I get paid from the neck up, not the neck down. The neck down is the guy on the trowel, on the hammer, on the wrenches, whatever it is. And as we know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we all got to where we are today. But there comes a time when I have to let other people be on the tools so I can be on the business. That help?
I think that's fair. And I think in that mindset, you have to decide, what does that person I want to be look like so that I can start doing that? And then, because if you don't know the destination, well, any road will get you there. It's like you just go anywhere, but it's the idea of, I run into people who feel like maybe they are not too good to do the work. You're like, okay, that's fine, but you're too important to do the work, because what you don't understand is if you don't go do what you're supposed to do, there's nothing for everybody else to do.
That's right. Yeah. I talk about something called revenue responsibility per hour. And that's a real smack in the face for all of us. What's my revenue responsibility per hour? So I'm going to use some very, very simple math. I'm talking on my fingers math. Can I just do that quick?
Absolutely.
So let's say that it's $1 million business, right? One with 6 zeros, just $1 million business. And I'm not taking away from anybody who's working towards 1 million. And I'm not saying 1 million's easy to get to. Let's just say $1 million. If you did $1 million in sales last year, you have $1 million company. And then you have to look at how many hours you work as a business owner in the company. And this is where it gets funny. A lot of guys are going to laugh. If you worked 50 weeks a year, so you took 2 weeks off, Christmas, Easter, summer, whatever, you took 2 weeks off, so 50 weeks. And if you worked 40 hours a week. This is where the giggling starts. Right? But that's 2,000 hours. Sorry, what's that?
You definitely did 40.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did 40, the first 40 by Wednesday. But what that means is if I divide those two things, I worked 2,000 hours a year and we sold $1 million. My responsibility as the owner is $500 an hour. Now, that doesn't mean that when I do my next estimate for a dry stone retaining wall, I'm billing my time as a PM at $500 an hour. What it does mean is that I'm responsible for the cash flow, the breathing in and out of $500 an hour for the business. What that also means, and Chad, let's put the magnifying glass on you and I. If this episode is an hour long and somebody listening doesn't get $501 of value, then they're free to hang up, delete the podcast. It's no good to them.
Right.
You have to stay at that level to add value to the business. It's just that's the mindset right there.
Yeah. And the mindset of, if it's not $500 an hour work that you're engaged in, you shouldn't be doing it.
You shouldn't be doing that.
And $500 an hour sounds like a high number, but that work is about, generating that kind of revenue, and that's I'm a huge fan of getting a personal assistant or a virtual assistant, or however you want to have your assistant.
Yeah.
Of somebody that can, teach you about delegating, and somebody you can delegate to, and can kind of get you out of the weeds. Because again, a guy explained to me, he said, if you want to make if you want to make $100,000 a year, just getting it, you need to make sure you're not doing anything that you can pay somebody $25 an hour to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're not doing work that makes money. If you're picking up the checks, you're driving around town, you're doing your own books and things like that, these things you can outsource. Unless you think, I'm just not that good and I shouldn't go sell anything today because I probably won't sell it. Well, then you're probably not going to be in business very long anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of belief that goes behind being a business owner. And the challenge is I'm not going to say we, because I think you and I do teach this, but they don't teach this in school. What they teach in school is here's how to follow. Here's how to get a job. And the people who are listening to your show and mine, they've chosen a different path. They've chosen a leadership path, and there's just unless you come to people like you and I, there's no education for that. So of course it's hard. Of course they don't know the systems. They're simple systems, but nobody's sharing them. They don't share them at Home Depot in the parking lot while you're pulling up. No, that's just not where they share them. Maybe at trade shows or conventions, you see a speaker on stage, or you hear somebody who's done it before, a guy who's been in the business for a long time. That's where you pick up the nuggets. But you're not going to get it in school, so you've got to go find it.
And I think a lot of people, I talk a lot about the curse of knowledge. People don't understand, the guys that have been in business a long time, and the women that have been around and stuff like that. It's not that they don't want to tell you; it's they don't understand that they know things you don't know. It doesn't dawn on them to explain to you about whatever retainage compensation is, or how you're going to get these things to work. So you don't know the questions to ask, and they don't know the things that you don't know. So there's a time when you just have a difficult exchange. So that's where coaches and associations, things like that, come in.
Yeah. And I've gone through this assistant thing a number of times in my life. I've built it, as you said in the very kind intro, I've built and sold a couple of companies from scratch. Yeah. And there was times I didn't have an assistant. It's just me. I'm like saying to myself the things other people say to themselves. I can't afford it right now. I just can't afford it. When we get this job, when we get that gig, then I'll afford an assistant. Well, then I go and I get an assistant, and suddenly it takes me a week, and I think to myself, oh, what was I doing? All this lunacy of making my own presentations or editing or checking my emails, just sifting out the ones that waste my time. And there are lots of those. That's time that could be better spent by somebody else. Booking my calendar, taking the inbound phone calls so inbound customers don't feel left alone. There's lots of places for people to add value, and they love being an assistant. Let them do their thing.
And that's the people, I run into that where, they're like, well, I don't like doing it. I don't want to make somebody else do it. Somebody is living and dying and loving the idea of, they get up in the morning excited about being an assistant. And you think I'm kidding, but they are. There's people that get up in the morning and love, doing taxes. I don't know what's wrong.
I have no idea
but they're out there. Thank goodness.
But find that person. That's your assistant. I just interviewed somebody on my show named Molly Sprague, and she runs the office of a design firm. It's a residential design firm, but she loves admin. To your point, she loves it. She's passionate about it.
And then they're good at it. And they're so good at it, they're as good as you think you could be.
Better.
That's right. That's right.
They're so good, it's scary. And
they're absolutely better than you would be. But
yeah. For people listening who might have a military background, this is called a force multiplier. How do I take what I've got and make it more? Right.
Oh, yeah.
And a hammer is a force multiplier. You could try to pound in a nail with your hand. That's going to last one smack before you think, I need a better system. Well, trying to manage your own schedule and do the things that drag you back is like trying to pound in a hammer with your hand, or cutting your own hair, or being your own dentist. There are things you should outsource.
Your own dentist. Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Oh my gosh. So when you talk to people about time, so that the assistant and outsourcing and those, that kind of blends right into, it's all coming back to your time. How do you teach people to value their time? And then are you a proponent of block scheduling? And how do you take control of time?
So, oh my God, blocks. Of course you said block scheduling. Of course.
On my list of things to do one day.
Oh, okay. I am insane about block scheduling. So, boy, you just hit on the hottest topic of the day.
Well, we can stay here. I'd love to get better at it.
Oh, well, and so would I. So let me say that first of all, I'm very good with time, and I'd love to get better at it, because we cannot manage time. First, the very definition of the thing we're talking about is the wrong word. So I can't manage my time, but I can manage my priorities. Right. And you know this, but I'm going to say it so that we all reset ourselves, so we have the right mindset here. There's 24 hours in a day, and you and I both use our time and it's gone. You just cannot get it back. You can ask a billionaire this. You can ask the pastor at your church this. You can ask a kindergarten teacher this. Once time is gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. But I can manage my priorities to make the most of my time. And that's where wisdom lies. So we've gone beyond knowledge, and now we're into wisdom. And now I'm going to be Dom. Can I just be Dom?
Let it roll.
If you don't manage your time, somebody else is going to. So the bigger the DIK you are with your time, the better things are. Because if I don't manage it, Chad, you're going to manage my time. And somebody else is going to. So I got to manage my time. And I know I said manage time. I have to manage my priorities and get stuff done that needs to be done. Everything else comes after that.
And the tool you use for that, I assume, is your schedule. Because that's what you can control.
That's right. I can control my schedule when I understand my priorities. So to understand my priorities, I do things that you and I would be familiar with, which is I build a strategic plan for the business. I know what I'm working on this quarter. Once you have that clarity, it just becomes so easy. That's why great recipes have a recipe. Do this first. You need 3 eggs, not 9, not 1. You need 3 eggs. And that's your priority. Get eggs. So once you understand your priorities, then it's easy to build the calendar. Then you need the discipline to stay on the calendar. And there's tricks for that as well. I teach those, and I'm sure you do as well. So it's a constant and never ending struggle. I will say that. But the people who master that struggle run 2 and 3 and 4 companies at a time.
Yeah, and they can do that. And then, so what is block scheduling?
So block scheduling is actually a really simple thing. If you imagine that you look at something called a week at a glance calendar. Do you remember those old things? Those
I think it was on paper one time.
Yeah. Well, but I actually teach people, because I teach a time management course, right? You print off this week at a glance calendar. It's very simple. And then you just write in your priorities. Meet with foreman, or toolbox talk, whatever you might call it. Meet with bookkeeper Tuesday at 2. And then here's my little trick for that. I tell my bookkeeper, hey, we're going to meet every Tuesday at 2:00. Can you send me the agenda Monday at 1? And they're like, well, that's my job. That's what I will do. Thanks, Dom. And so they send me the agenda Monday at 1, and they show up in my office Tuesday at 2. And guess what? We have the meeting. I don't even have to think about it. They walk into my office or they call me, and we have that meeting. So I can play tricks on myself with time management too, right? But you and I may have had this situation before where you're like, I got a bookkeeper, but we haven't met in 6 weeks. We keep putting it off. Well, don't. right? So anyways, you take your block calendar and you write in all the things you need to do, and then you make sure they happen.
It sounds so simple, but one of the things you went through there, and I love it because it's something that I try so hard to get other people to implement, is you call your bookkeeper and you say, we're going to meet on Tuesday at 2:00. And we need to have an agenda. And I want you to send me an agenda, because they know, and that's that's one of the things. I just had this at work. I met with one of my employees, and he said, hey, we're going to do all this. So I just need you to put this outline together for me. And I was like, this sounds terrible. I'm not a doer. I was like, what you need from me is inside my head. I don't necessarily know what you need, and I'm not going to think it through really deeply to get what you need. I need you to figure out what you need from me. That's what that document you need is. Then you use your time to get that information from me in a full enough way that you can then go do your job.
Put together a list of questions.
They send you the agenda. That's your job, is not to plan. You don't need to tell everybody how to do their job. You just need to tell them what their job is.
Yeah.
And what we're aiming for.
So I take it one step further than that, and you're going to laugh at me. But I've been working at this for a long time, right? I've been a business coach for ages. I've built and sold a couple of companies. So I've been able to, I have nothing against people who've read a couple books and think they're a business coach, but that's not me. I'm a reality-based business coach. I talk normal. I don't talk like a consultant. This is just normal stuff. I'm a construction guy, right? There's a simple system, and we should use the system. The system works 89.75% of the time, like all the time. And I use the system that I stole it from Gino Wickman in EOS, and Vern Harnish with the Rockefeller Habits. Are you familiar with those two books?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a strategic planning system. But when you do the huddle always has the same agenda. Now, I'll eliminate the hi, how you doing? That's the first part of it. Then we start with numbers. So the first part of the agenda is always numbers. The second is what's going on. The third is where are you stuck? And the fourth is who's going to do what by when. And I wrap all that up in, hey, how are you? You and I are both very social animals. So I don't make it sound like a military dictatorship, but we're going to start with numbers. Numbers removes the BS. Then we're going to talk about what's up, what's going on. And that's where my bookkeeper says, what's up is you have to approve this invoice from this, and we have to change suppliers, or they've just given us some, there's something there. Okay, where are we stuck? Chad hasn't paid his bill. Oh, that's a stuck. You know what? I'm talking to Chad tomorrow. I'll talk to him. Great. Now we're unstuck. Then we get to who's going to do what by when. Very simple agenda. And I can take that simple system and push it through the whole company.
And it gives people clarity. And I think that is the way that you can remove. And I think that the value of numbers is if you're a business owner and you've set your numbers correctly, and the people are telling you, and you are meeting those numbers, then the problem being social people like you and I is we could spend all day talking about how great things are. But if the number is good, then we're good. Move on, because we need to manage our time.
That's right. Manage our time. It goes back to that. And, it sounds easy when you talk to us, but it takes work. And so growing the business isn't for everybody. Becoming a business owner who happens to run a construction company isn't for everybody. Some people are going to be happy being a mason who runs a masonry company, and that's great. They're going to do great work, but what they're not going to do is always have a bigger truck towing a bigger boat to a bigger cottage on a prettier lake. You know what I mean? And that's okay for people, but for the people who have a real growth mindset, they know they're hungry for knowledge and they want to put things in place, or they're frustrated with where they are and something's got to change.
And I think that it's that's another thing, talking about mindset. When I talk to them, they're like, oh, business owner, that looks so hard. And you see all these stories of, I'm a business owner, I can choose my own 80 hours that I want to work whenever I want to work them, and there's all these stories about it and how tough it is and how hard it is. And you can find the same thing for parenting. You can find it for, whatever.
Sports, yeah.
But it's mindset. I think I have a hard time when people ask me, I used to say I would never want my children to own their own business. Now it's almost a requirement, because owning a business doesn't have to be hard. And if you think owning a business is going to suck, or you think it's going to be great, you are right either way.
That's right.
But you have to choose which way you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so it's an interesting, the mindset and time. I mean, those are key ingredients.
but it comes back to also a couple of key things. You need to have a plan. And of course, if I don't have a plan, if I want to start going to the gym, I can go to the gym and get the membership, and I can get a $6 a month membership and opt in, or maybe there's a gym in my building and I never use it. But at some point you have to commit, right? Have you ever heard the analogy of the breakfast plate where you've got bacon and eggs?
No.
Oh, some other people are already laughing. So there's a difference between commitment and participation, right? So participation in this case would be, I go to the gym, I get on the machines and I do my thing, but commitment is different. And that's when we look at the breakfast plate. When you look at your eggs and bacon, the chicken is a participant. He donated it, or she donated an egg, but the bacon is committed. The pig is committed, right? The pig's in. And so which one are you in your life, in your business, in going to the gym, in improving your business? Are you the chicken or are you the pig?
Oh, yeah. And the pig
Maybe we should say, are you the bacon or are you the eggs? Not,
I don't know. I mean, a pig is a magical animal. You feed it trash and it turns it into bacon. That's a pretty miraculous event.
Everything but the oink. Have you ever heard that episode?
Oh, I grew up in the country. I have absolutely heard that.
Oh, yeah. Everything. Yeah. No, there's somebody followed the trajectory of one production pig, like a swine production. And I think the episode's called Everything But the Oink. How many places pigs are put into manufacturing? It's crazy.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Dom, I certainly appreciate your time. And I think our goal is to kind of give people some tips to reach out and see what it is. So obviously we want to link to the ProfitToolBelt podcast. Yeah, exactly. So we put on there, and like I said, I mean, it's you do teach courses, and there's a time management course. There's a couple of different courses there. They give a lot of potential, because running a business can be a lot easier than what people are experiencing in many times. And I think it's encouraging to find folks that are out like you are, trying to help them make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I love what you could tell. I can tell that you love what you do, and I love what I do. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach me, just find me through the podcast, ProfitToolBelt. If they happen to be in the cabinetry industry, so cabinet makers, architectural mill workers, furniture makers, then I have another podcast, believe it or not, just for cabinetry. It's called Cabinet Maker Profit System. And then I have a book as well called Construction Millionaire Secrets.
That sounds like the right place to start right there.
Right there. Yeah, there's a free PDF. If anybody wants it, contact me and I'll send you a copy of the PDF, or, the regular Amazon thing.
Fantastic. Well, Dom, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to kind of talking to you some more here in the future, and we'll see if we can't chart some progress for some people.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.